Hello, hello. Are we going? Well, thank you very much, and good evening. Welcome here to the Freight House Room at the Depot for Wrestlemania here. I don't know how many years we've done this, but we've done Wrestlemania for many years here, and we're back with all wrestling coaches here on the show tonight. In fact, on tonight, we got Travis Carpenter, Mitchell Colonel Wrestling, Casey Mao, Dakota Wesleyan Tiger Wrestling. Josh Geppert will be here with Mount Vernon Plankinton, Korska Stickney. They're in Class B. Also, Robert Kokesh, one of the top, 4 or 5 ranked teams in Class B from Wagner. He'll be here as well. And John Donovan from Chamberlain will make the trip over as well. And of course, all online tonight at KORNradio.com. And boy, did I spend a lot of research with finding out what's going on with the wrestling here today. We got Travis Carpenter with us, and Carp. First of all, good finish. The duel won a couple of those last week. A great, really dual season for Mitch. I think 10-5, 7-1 in the ESD. It was a good one for us for this year.
Yeah, the ESD, you look at that every year and you look at your record. It's been a long time since, we've been in the conversation as far as ESD goes. And, we were a couple bad losses in the peer duel away from being ESD champs, and for us to go beat Watertown and Brandon Valley last Friday night was a super night. Our kids, we had some kids lose some matches, but we had other kids step up and do some things. And, that's kind of what we've had going on all year is somebody else steps up each week, and that's what you have to have and to win duels and that kind of stuff. But, as far as going into the region this week, we can't have anybody not step up. They've all got to step up and do what they're capable of or more than what they're capable of so that we can get into that state meet.
You had a week off. It seems like everybody, well, I want to say is healthy, but not really. We have a couple that's going to be out. That's Sutton and Carson, but the rest of them are falling into their places very nicely. And like you said, they got to go maybe above and beyond what the Call of Duty is this Saturday.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that obviously we lost Carson and Sutton and Kyler.
Yeah, Bowder. Yeah.
We in coming into the season, we had 2 state placers returning, and one was a state champ in Carson, one was a 5th place finisher in Kyler, and Sutton has been in the state meet the last 3 years. So, losing those 3 kids is, that's hard. Hard on me for a couple of reasons, obviously, with Sutton. But, all of them are like my kids. And when you see them lose opportunities like that, it's, it's disheartening. It's disappointing. And, the good thing is all of these kids that we have in there, it's not like these injuries happen this week. We've had time to prepare, and these kids have had the mat experience. They've worked hard. I'm comfortable, with the group, with the kids I'm going to put on the mat. They're going to be successful. They're going to do good things. And, it's region time, postseason. And that's the fun part. That's why you bust your tail all year long, is so that you can step on the mat at the region meet and be ready to go.
I don't know who does this. I don't know how they figure it out, but I found some polls out, obviously, and they have Mitchell at number 11. As competitive we have been all year long, I thought we'd be higher than that. I'm looking maybe top 6, top 8, hopefully. But 11, I don't know.
Well, I guess I don't put a lot of stake whether they had us at 1 or not in the rankings. It really doesn't matter to me. It's a ranking. It's somebody in whatever town looking at the results and trying to put together a ranking. It's nothing official or anything like that. So I always if I look at it, I look at it as, what, guys, and it's more of a motivating factor to my kids about, they don't think very much of you. That kind of stuff, and that's it's more of the patriot mentality.
Right,
I guess
there
you
you
could
go.
say use it as bulletin board mentality. But in the end, where we finish is going to be totally determined on a whole bunch of young kids. I mean, Carter Max is going to do well. The upperclassmen that we have, I believe Cole Gerke's going to do well. Max Schoenfelter's capable of a lot of things, and you think of the upperclassmen that are there, that they're going to do what they need to do to get into that state meet. But it's going to come down to a lot of freshmen and sophomores to step up and do something fun in order for us to be above that 10-11 mentality. And are we capable? Absolutely, 100%. I truly believe that we can go compete to be in the top 3 in the state meet.
Well, we're going to run down every single weight class here. Before we get to that, Travis has a few questions to pick your brain here before we get to the regions.
Are you sure?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Bo Foot, he had the big pin there, the kind of match riding on his shoulders. How did he perform there? What against Watertown the other night?
Yeah, that's Watertown's kind of got one of those situations. Like I said, for us, we've had these injuries all season long, so we've been able to adjust and adapt. And Watertown had some unfortunate things happen last week, and their heavyweight, I believe, had an injury that's going to hold them out for the year. Their 13-pounder had something happen where he doesn't get to wrestle, and for them, they bumped up their 220-pounder away from Carter to wrestle against Bo, and Bo's been wrestling well. Bo's the kind of kid that he can win just about any match. I believe there's only one kid in the state at heavyweight that he can't beat. I don't think anybody's beaten him, but that's another thing. But Bo on Friday night had a great night. He knocked off the Brandon Valley kid, who I believe is rated like 2 or 3 in the state. Throughout the season, has beaten a lot of the good kids. So Bo, not only did he solidify the win against Watertown, but he had a really, really good win against Brandon Valley.
Take us through the region format and who qualifies for state in that process.
Sure, you're gonna be in top 4. And we should know tomorrow what our seating situation is and what we have to do to get into that state meet. All of us have entered our stuff, or will have entered our stuff by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I believe they'll send us out a pre-seed type of a deal to tell us where we're at. By my calculations, we have 13 kids that are going to be seeded somewhere between 1 and 5, which is what you want. You need to have that seed, and if you're wrestling a 4 or 5 match right off the bat, that's important, because if you win that, then you're going to have a kid that you should beat if you would happen to lose in the semis, to get into the state meet. So it's a big deal to win that first round match. And, if you're seeded 1 or 2, to get into that final and give yourself a chance, because if you win the region, you're guaranteed a seed in the state meet. Not a top 4 or anything like that, but you're guaranteed one of those top 10 seeds. And to be seeded in the state meet is, it puts you in such a better situation than if you're drawn in.
Did they take away the bonus points for the region champ? What was the idea behind that?
I guess I'm not 100% sure what.
Is that a big difference as far as seeding is concerned? I mean, if you win the region, I would assume you're
if you win the region, obviously you get seeded, but there's no extra, and I don't think there should be extra put on that region champ, besides giving him a seed. And the thing is you might have a region where there are 5 really good kids and 1 kid doesn't get a go, and that 1 through 4 should be seeded, but you've already put these other 4 guys in there and they can't get seated above them, even though they're better than them, that kind of stuff. So, it's important to win because you're guaranteed a seed, but in the end, you've got your body of work over the season is what matters.
And Max Schoenfelder at 182, has he been the most improved, or is he, this past month or so, we've talked about him before, but it seems like he has just really turned it on here once we got to January.
Yeah, he's had a really good go of it here recently, and we're looking forward to seeing what he's capable of this weekend. He could go anywhere from 1st in the region to, I believe, 4th in the region. Just depending on what Max shows up. If the competitive kid shows up that's capable, he could beat just about anybody.
So we're planning on getting all hopefully 13, 14 into the state tournament. Is that what your prediction is? Or
well, I don't think any coach is ever going to tell you that he doesn't want them all in.
Right.
And obviously, on a perfect day, we get all 14 in. But I told the kids already that if you're getting on the bus, you're planning on going to the state meet. You need to get in there and do what it takes. Don't overlook anybody. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. It's got to be one match at a time, but expect to place in the top 4 so that we can take all of them next weekend to Rapid City.
Let's run down all the weight classes here for you. Let's start with the 106 pounds and 113. You got the Brock and Brandon Sparks. I don't think they're in high school yet, are they?
Yeah, they're freshmen.
Oh, they are. Okay, all right.
They wrestled a little bit for us last year at 6 and 13. Brock and Brandon did. Twins. Love twins. Twins are awesome. My wife actually asked me once upon a time if I'd have more kids, and I said,
if we get twins,
you can guarantee me twin boys, I'm in.
You're lucky to have twin girls.
Right.
There you go.
Right. Well, the only way I think you do that to guarantee it is fertility drugs. You might end up with 6. So anyway, they're ornery. I wouldn't consider them Jason and Justin Greenway ornery, but they're pretty close. They
competitive.
They're very, very competitive, and I've actually this week put them together a lot in the practice room, and there's a little bit of orneriness going on, and that's what I want out of them right now. So, looking forward to see what Brock and Brandon are capable of. Last year, they were kind of the whipping boys a little bit because they're the 8th graders that were undersized, and they're a little bit more real 6 and 13 pounders this year. So they're very capable of doing some really good things.
Is it good? Is it bad? Is it more competitive to have a senior brother in the wrestling room as well with Logan at 138 for you?
They're such different kids than Logan, and if you've watched our kids wrestle at all this year, you'd see that. But it's good and bad. It doesn't. I don't think they have an effect on each other that way. They have an effect on the twins. Have an effect on each other, but Logan does his thing and they do their thing. And brothers is awesome. To have brothers on the team, whether it's twins or whatever it is. There's always that little competitive edge. Unfortunately, they aren't big enough for me to put them with Logan. It would have been fun to see that kind of stuff.
I know Travis talked about most improved, if you will. I think Bryce Palmer, your 20-pounder, I think he, as the season's progressed, has gotten a lot better.
Bryce is an interesting kid, and he's a competitive kid. I mean, he's an 8th grader. At the beginning of the year, I had a meeting with his parents, and we decided to move him up. And they were concerned about him having success and that kind of stuff. But knowing him and having worked with him now for 2.5 months, that kid is going to be successful. I mean, he's going to be one of those kind of special kids before he's all said and done. But he is extremely competitive. He's goofy to wrestle. I mean, he's one of those guys that's got rubber arms and kind of all over the place. You might think you have him at one point in time, and he's going to get you. So you think you're in good shape, and then all of a sudden you end up on your back, and he can put you on your back at any point in time. So he's a neat kid to coach and to watch wrestle.
How about 126 for the Colonels?
126, Trent Bentima. Trent is obviously filling in for Kyler Bowder. Can't say enough about Kyler Bowder and the effort that he put in to get back from an injury and then to have it taken away. But Trent has been an ultimate team player. He stepped in there and done everything we've asked of him, and he's done it essentially with a smile on his face and trying to get better every single day. So, Trent's won a couple big matches for us here recently. Against Brandon Valley, he got a pin, which put us in a situation where we could make a move later on to make sure we won the duel. So, Trent's done that for us a couple times, and really proud of him, and looking forward to see what he does on Saturday.
Besides from the coaches and maybe the teammates, sometimes that goes unseen. Things like that,
right? People look at records. They don't necessarily look at what has he done for his team, what sacrifices has he made, and his teammates know, and I know, all of our coaching staff knows that Trent has put it on the line for us and done everything we've asked of him.
Ryan McGinnis has been very solid for you at 132.
Yeah, Ryan's one of those guys that's capable of beating just about anybody, and there's a couple little technique things that we've been working with Ryan throughout the year that if he gets those things solidified, and not only is he going to get into the state meet, but he's going to make a little noise when he gets there. And people don't realize this, but him and Kyler are really close, and they've been practice partners since they were really little. So that has a little bit of effect on Ryan, but Ryan has bounced back from that and done some great things for us.
Let's talk 145. We got Logan Sparks at 138, but 145, Cole Gerke.
Yeah, Cole's been in and out of the lineup a little bit with some injury stuff throughout the year, and Cole's wrestled 52. He's wrestled 45. He was going to wrestle 38, so he's kind of been all over the place. But he settled in at that 145 pound spot. Sutton was there at the beginning of the year, but I think Cole could win our region. He's capable of that. We've just got to step up and be ready to go. And if he pulls that off and gets himself a good spot in that state meet, he's capable of going big places also.
In his bloodline, obviously Tucker Vilhauer at 152.
Yeah, Tuck's just a freshman, and I'll just talk about him and Joe together because they're kids that Tucker's probably a 38 pounder wrestling 52, and Joe's a 45 pounder wrestling 60, and
both freshmen.
They're both freshmen, and they knew that the seniors were down lower and they weren't going to beat them. So, I remember the day that we put the name tags on the board, and they both put their names up at 160 because they knew that with all the seniors we had in there, that's where they had a chance. And you got to give those two credit. They work their tails off. Both of those two kids also are going to be special, and you're going to see some awesome things out of them in the next 3 years.
We talked about 182 with Max Schoenfelder, great wrestler all year long. But let's talk 195. Blake Fredericks, I think, is your 195er, wrestling where Carson Max was, and he's wrestling up, obviously, a couple of weights.
Yeah, he and Tate wrestled off earlier in the year for 170, and Blake actually had beaten Tate, but the way things worked out, Blake's a little bit bigger, so he wrestles at the 195-pound spot in place of Carson. And and Blake knows this, and everybody knows this. You can't replace Carson Max, but Blake has done, and again, in specific spots. You go back to the Chamberlain tournament where he takes third place. That basically won us the tournament. Him and Tate Elwine at 170 pounds. Both of those two kids have won big matches for us throughout the year that have propelled our team into either a win in a duel or in a tournament. And that's, things that people don't understand. They see us winning and they look at, Carter Max. They go look at, the guys that are winning, the Kyler Bowders, the Bo Foots, the guys that have a lot of wins under their belt. But, Blake and Tate have done a lot for us. And, again, like a Trent Bentima, you're just kind of proud of the effort that they put forward.
Carter Max, 220. He is the number one ranked wrestler. So not only winning the region is on the table, but winning state is obviously on the table too.
Yeah, he's wrestling really well, and we've got a little secret weapon on our coaching staff by the name of Brent Havlick that's been working really closely with him, and he's been doing some things with Carter to get him prepared for not only this weekend but the following weekend, and I'm just having fun watching Carter and seeing him enjoy wrestling this year like he has, and he's not worried about his weight or anything like that. He weighs 210 pounds wrestling 220, and he's just going out and wrestling, and he's doing a great job.
And of course, Beaufoot, 285 as well. He's another one that's wrestling up. He's normally a 220 pounder, and he's at 285. Or
yeah, and that's the thing. We don't have a lot of kids that are cutting a lot of weight, but there's probably only really, if you look at that, Brock Sparks cutting a little bit at 106. Ryan McGinnis cut quite a little bit to get down to 32 in the beginning of the year. But outside of that, we don't cut a lot of weight. And I think, the more years that I'm involved in this sport, you see the kids that are just strong and happy and healthy and having fun doing what they're doing. They have success.
Years past, obviously Sturgis had their run. Pierre's been good the last few years. Is it Rapid City Stevens, Rapid City Central's turn this year to be in the top of the podium?
I would say Rapid City Stevens is the team to beat. Don't count out Pierre again.
Okay.
They've put together, up and down their lineup. They've moved around a lot and done some ththings to solidify their lineup. And they're going to make a run at it again, and that'd be the fifth in a row. So obviously, as much as I get along with Sean Lewis really well, but I don't know if I want anybody to hit the 5 when we have the 4 going there also. But they're very capable, and Stevens better look out for them and for Rapid City Central.
Region 3A, besides Mitchell, it's Aberdeen, Chamberlain, which we'll have Coach Donovan on here later on this hour. Cheyenne, Eagle Butte, Huron, Millbank, Pierre, and Todd County. That makes up Region 3, right?
Yep.
Okay,
absolutely.
What time does it get underway on Saturday?
I believe 10 a.m.
10 a.m.?
10 a.m. in Huron.
In Huron at the Huron Arena all day long.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach, good luck, and we'll have you on next week, and we'll see what we're doing at state.
Thank you.
Coach Travis Carpenter here. That might be the longest we've ever gone with Carpy here on the Wednesday night Coach's Corner show here, online only at KORNradio.com. We're going to take a time out. We're going to switch gears from high school to college. First-year coach Casey Mao of Dakota Wesleyan's next on the Wednesday night Coach's show.
This is John Foster from the Depot. We're more than just a typical sports bar. In addition to pool and darts and sports on TV, we feature 30 beers on tap from all over the globe. Happy hour daily between 4:30 and 7:30 with extended hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Enjoy our new menu items, monster burgers, gourmet flatbreads, and salads, along with other soon-to-be Depot favorites. The Depot, open all day, every day, starting at 11:30 a.m.
This reminder from your friends at KORN News Radio 1490. Due to the observance of Thanksgiving Day on Thursday, November 23rd, there will be no garbage collection. Wednesday and Thursday's garbage will be collected on Wednesday, November 22nd. Friday's garbage collection will be picked up as normal. Regional landfill will be closed on Thursday, November 23rd. Dependable recycling will follow the city schedule. If you have any questions, call 995-8465 or go to cityofmitchell.org. This reminder from your friends at KORN.
You are listening to the Wednesday Night Coaches.
Here on KORN News Radio, of course, KORNradio.com. Online only tonight due to SDSU basketball on KORN Radio tonight. Let's continue with our coaches here. We switch gears from high school to college. Dakota Wesleyan University first-year coach Casey Mao is with us. And Coach, Sioux Center, Iowa native, I guess. How you've been adjusting so far here as the head coach of Dakota Wesleyan?
Oh, I'm loving it. Loving it. You know, made the transition from being a high school coach myself, and then you know, kind of learning the ropes with the college thing. And yeah, great wrestling community, great, you know, area of the state for wrestling. So that's been great.
Kind of, you know, I don't want to say correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of a work in progress here with Dakota Wesleyan. You kind of took over. I don't know if you cleaned house or whatever, but I mean, it's a work in progress, especially this year for the Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw an opportunity to build something. And, you know, anytime, especially at the college level, if there's a coaching change, either things were going really well and you know, that coach got the opportunity to move up and go on to bigger, better things, or things weren't going so well. And you know, we kind of got to start back from scratch, you know, and not so much a deal of cleaning house, but maybe, you know, changing the way things are done and, you know, taking a hard look at the culture and trying to kind of instill some different things there. So that's what we've been working on.
So I know past coaches at Dakota Wesleyan, their biggest complaint was facilities, that kind of stuff. It's hard to recruit, but now you got, I don't say top-notch facilities, but it's a lot improved from years past.
Oh, definitely. There's some opportunity here. And that's, you know, that's one of the biggest things that drew me to it. I mean, we have our own wrestling room, which is basically brand new. And, you know, you hit the nail on the head. The facilities, definitely competitive.
How do you go out recruit-wise? I mean, I know that's a process, that's a project for you. You don't have all your weight classes filled right now. You get, again, a work in progress for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely want to build our base with South Dakota kids. I think it just makes sense, and you know, there's a lot of kids in the state here that you know, have the ability and have the talent to wrestle at the college level, and I think, just from a standpoint of maybe they don't get the exposure on the national level, you know, outside of the top guys. A lot of kids here in the state go unrecruited. But, you know, as I said before, kind of looking at it for myself coming in here, a lot of opportunity with the program, and that's really what we're pitching and promoting with kids that we're recruiting is like, hey, you know, you can go a lot of places and kind of buy your time and maybe work to crack the lineup in a couple of years, but I mean, here you've got the opportunity to be the guy right away, you know, and to go out and wrestle in meaningful matches and meaningful duels right away. And so, yeah, that's really what we're selling to kids.
As far as your background in strength and conditioning, how do you kind of mold that into wrestling?
Well, you know, our identity as a program is we're going to be a development program. We're not going to be probably a talent cultivation program. We're going to have to develop kids. You know, we're going to have to take each guy individually, and really look at the things that they do well, the areas where they need work. And I guess one of the really upsides of having a little bit smaller roster is that, you know, we can take a look at each guy that we've got and spend a little bit more time with film and spend a little bit more time with the individual. You know, and that's, as you brought up with the strength conditioning thing, that's pretty deeply ingrained with me. I mean, it's all about development, holistically, not just on the mat, but getting guys faster and stronger, and that's a big part of it.
There's an obvious size difference between high school and college. How about that mental part of what's expected at college compared to high school?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just the competitiveness. If you're familiar with wrestling and the sport, I mean, a wrestling match really breaks down into a lot of different, miniature individual battles. And every one of those battles is just that much more competitive when you get to the college level. I mean, obviously there's a physical difference in a kid that's matured a few more years, but on the mental side, every situation, every miniature battle is tougher, and every guy you go out and wrestle, and we've had kids that come in this year straight out of high school, and that's really the first thing they all say is every guy is competitive, every guy is tough, every guy's going to bring it. So getting our guys to understand that and to kind of be comfortable with it.
As far as transfers coming in, anybody for next year you can talk about, or anything for the roster coming up?
The one addition that we did have this year, Tyler Dion from Wagner. He was on the roster last year, and took some time away second semester last year, and wasn't enrolled in school first semester, but we did get him back. We did get him back for second semester here, and he's working on shoring himself up academically, wrestling unattached. But he's been a huge difference maker in the room already. He's the type of talent that he could probably wrestle at the Division I, Division II level. And so you get a guy like that in the room, it makes a big difference just in the competitiveness, the speed of the game and everything. Other than that, we don't have any commitments at this time, but a lot of work being done throughout the season here with recruiting, and man, the month of March is going to be pretty crazy for us. We might be wrapping the season up in a couple weeks, but the work's not going to be done until summertime probably.
I don't know if this is your doing or not, but how do you convince a guy from Hawaii to come to Mitchell, South Dakota to wrestle for you? And how is he adjusting to the weather?
Yeah, Midwest people were tough. That's what I always tell guys. Like, it'll make you tough. Zylan is he's a great kid, and he's the type of kid that he'll kind of adapt and adjust to whatever situation you put him in. But that's kind of an interesting thing with wrestling recruiting. Not as many programs as like basketball and football, and so you see some of these states like a Hawaii, California is another good example with quite a few kids that participate, but not as many collegiate opportunities in state. And so these kids just want to wrestle in college, and they're willing to go wherever. But he was one of the guys that was here before I got here, so. Be an interesting story to see how he ended up.
Absolutely. What you got coming up this weekend? The GPAC tournament, that's still on for Saturday, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. That's our national qualifier. We'll be taking, the 5 guys that we've got. So at 133 would be Zylan Takata. 149, Mitchell Messersmith. He's a Lennox kid, freshman. And at 157, we're actually bringing 2 guys. The interesting thing with NAIA, as compared to any other division is you can bring 2 guys in up to 2 weights. So it just worked out that 2 of our guys here, Marcus Urban from Mount Vernon Plankinton and Cole Haluska from Lennox, that's both where they fill in. And then at 174, Tanner Warnsman, he's from Arapahoe, Nebraska. He's the lone senior in the lineup.
What happens? What do you got to do in the GPAC tournament to move on into the national tournament?
Yeah, so this has changed with the NAI in the last couple of years, where they used to have a different system where it was a lot lower barrier of entry to get to the national tournament. Now, it kind of mirrors what they do at the Division I level with the RPI, where there's a national rating committee, and so at each weight class, each of the 10 weight classes, there's 20 spots. The top 20 are rated. And so for the GPAC, and I just found this out actually, for example, at 157 pounds, there'll be 2 qualifying spots because there are 2 guys from our conference that are nationally rated at 157. So those allocations are basically given out, based on the strength of your weight class in your conference, and then there's wild cards and at large bids that are given out, but it's definitely very challenging, just to qualify anymore.
Before you came to Dakota West and before we finish up here, you are a certified CrossFit Level 1 certified trainer and a CrossFit Olympic weightlifting coach as well. So that's a pretty cool deal. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I going through college, it was something that I kind of fell into. I always knew at some capacity I wanted to be a coach, and I always thought it would just be wrestling. And then when I got to college, getting to work with strength conditioning coaches and be a little bit more involved in the weight room, that's just kind of where my interest took me. And the CrossFit thing, I kind of lucked into it a little bit through an internship, and it was, really about the first 10 years of my professional career, learning how to work with some different populations and different types of people, but all the same, as I talked about before, development through exercise in that case, but kind of taking that and working with adult populations to start. And I kind of worked my way back to working with middle school, high school kids, getting back into wrestling. And that's really how I got, back into this gig.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, best of luck to you. I know people here in Mitchell are excited that you're the head coach and turning this program around and getting it back where maybe it should be. So we wish you the best of luck this weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Casey Mount, a first-year head coach at Dakota West University here on the Wednesday Night Coaches Show. We'll switch back to high school with Josh Geppert from Mount Vernon, Plankinton, Corsica, Stickney coming up, and Robert Kokesh of Wagner, all coming up on the Wednesday Night Coaches Show. Appreciate it.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in South Dakota. This is sportsmanship. School sports, it's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is John Foster from The Depot. We're more than just a typical sports bar. In addition to pool and darts and sports on TV, we feature 30 beers on tap from all over the globe. Happy hour daily between 4:30 and 7:30 with extended hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Enjoy our new menu items, monster burgers, gourmet flatbreads, and salads, along with other soon-to-be Depot favorites. The Depot, open all day, every day, starting at 11:30 a.m.
An isolated or reoccurring headache can derail your day. In this screen-focused world, the demands on your vision can be especially paralyzing when coupled with a headache. That's why Dr. Jeff and Joe Kroll set out to create a diagnostics tool to analyze the problem. Armed with their experience and the assistance of a dedicated team of researchers, they created Sight Sync, and the results for many patients have been life-changing. For more information, check out their website, crawleyeclinic.com, or give them a call at 996-2020. Crawl Eye Clinic, setting standards for over 100 years.
Welcome back here, Freight House Room, The Depot, online only at KORNradio.com. We'll continue now with our Wrestlemania going on here at The Depot. We still got a couple of other area coaches on as well. Robert Kokesh of Wagner and John Donovan of Chamberlain just walked in here as well. Let's talk to Josh Geppert. Mount Vernon, Plankinton, Corsica, Stickney. Coming up, your region, I guess postseason is here, Coach. You got to be kind of excited for Saturday, right?
Very, very excited. It's always an exciting time of year. It's all about getting kids to peak at the right time, and the time is now.
Well, let's talk about you go down to Parkston coming up on Saturday. Talk about, first of all, throughout the course of your season, assess your season here so far for the Titans.
I guess I'd assess it as it's been kind of one of those up and down seasons. Some kids are excelling the way that I expected them to, and we got a couple that are kind of up in the air a little bit, battling kind of that influenza that's been coming around right now. I'm just trying to get through that and weather that kind of storm right now. But at the end of the day, I got a lot of young kids. I don't have a single senior on my team. So, I mean, got to keep checking myself a little bit. Be like, hey, I got a lot of young kids on this team. And a lot of young kids, but they got a lot of experience, and I think they're going to be ready for Saturday.
Let's start with a little bit of heavier kid, Jesse Hastings, 220, ranked number 2, I do believe, in his weight class, but he has a pretty tough weight class to get through, not just in the regions, but also in the state as well.
Correct. Yeah, at the beginning of the year, to be honest with you, I thought he was going to handle his own. I didn't really expect him to take too many losses this year. We had got upset a couple times, and I think we learned from those mistakes, and he's had a pretty solid week of practice, so I'm expecting big things out of him for the rest of the season. What
about 182 Thomas Baker for you?
Thomas Baker, also a young kid, stole him from a basketball family. So he's come along. He's a really strong kid. He's a light 82-pounder, but I knew that he's one of those farm kids and stuff like that. So he can handle his own there at 82. I mean, he weighs about 175, but he's tough on top, and we've just fixed a few things with him, and I think he could be right there at the end of the year.
Well, I know this is not a basketball name. It's a wrestling name. Pranger Hunter at 152, another junior for you.
Yeah. His old man, state champion back in the 80s. Yeah.
For Platte, right?
Yep, correct. Yeah. That is Platte. He will actually be here tonight.
Okay.
Tim will be. He's coming along. He had a little knee injury here lately, but we kind of took that to rest, and he's also had a pretty solid week of practice, and hoping he's went toe-to-toe with the best kids in the state so far. He wrestled that Alex Asoff from Faulkton here last weekend, and he had his opportunities. We'll just say a couple things didn't go our way, but I think if we meet him again, I think it's going to be a different outcome. So the chances up to him, I think that weight class right there is wide open. 152, I think, can be won by about 4 or 5 different kids, and I think we're one of them. So
you don't have a lot of seniors. In fact, zero seniors, you mentioned, but the junior class is pretty strong because Matt Cook's another one at 138 that's been doing pretty well.
Correct. Yeah, we finally got him back. He's battled some injuries and some other situations that just happen. That's life and stuff like that. Last year he ended up having to have surgery on his hand and wasn't able to wrestle, but he's a solid kid, and he's a very dangerous kid. He's got some hips that you don't see very often, and he's a wild card. There's a lot of good things that could happen for him. We just kind of got him knocked off the rust. He's one of those kids battling influenza right now, so we got to get him about as healthy as through him, trying to fight through this weekend and get him into next weekend, and then we'll make a run of it at the state tournament.
As far as the co-op, all the towns involved, how has that worked with numbers and everything?
To be honest with you, it's one of those. I mean, if you look at all those towns right there, those aren't wrestling towns. So I mean, those are all big basketball names. I know you can probably come up with 15 basketball names out of each one of those towns. Corsica Stickney, I finally have had a couple 6th graders coming up in the practice room this year. So I got a lot of kids coming down there from the youth program right now. So it's a slow process. It's probably been about 3 years now since I've had a high school kid actually wrestling from Corsica Stickney, but I think those times are changing. In the next 5 years, I think we're going to have a handful plus of kids wrestling for Corsica Stickney.
It's just one of those things that, just generational that happens. You go through highs and lows with the numbers.
Correct. It is. It's just like my youth program, for instance, this year, kind of seen a drop in numbers this year. The kids that I do have, pretty solid kids, but the numbers were a little bit down, and it's just one of those years. Last year I had a lot of numbers. I mean, numbers were probably almost double. I probably lost, I would say, 10 to 15 kids just in the youth program. But it's one of those things, it'll balloon right back up next year. So you just got to keep pushing with it and keep getting. Like I said, the youth program, that's your farm system. You got to treat it like a baseball team, and you got to build them up from there. If you build them up from there, and it'll come. It's a process. You got to keep grinding it out.
As far as having no seniors, has that changed anything? You still got those juniors, but as far as how you approach things, or those leaders in the room,
it's a little bit different. 2 years ago, I had pretty solid leadership in Marcus Urban, who's wrestling for Dakota Wesleyan now, and Tanner Razoo, who's a state champion 2 years ago. I mean, it's tough to replace that. It's really tough, and you can't just push that onto coming into the season. I mean, I got sophomores trying to lead a team. It's tough. When they have those kids to look up to the whole time, that's been a learning experience for me. Is like, you got to try to develop these guys and to become leaders when they haven't really done it their whole life. They've had a lot of wrestling success, but they've never been in that leadership role, and that's kind of a learning experience that we're kind of going through together.
I know we talked about a handful of kids here. Anybody else we're missing maybe you might make some noise come Saturday or even the state tournament too?
To be honest with you, my 113-pounder Griffin Tobin, outside champ, beginning of the season, he broke his collarbone here at the end of the football season. Not a big kid, so the whole football thing was kind of up in the air, and he broke his collarbone late in the season. Didn't wrestle until about Christmas time, but he's got an outside shot of making the state tournament, maybe winning a match or two. May not be a big thing, but that's a big thing to a freshman in high school. You have some sort of success when you're young like that, and it motivates you in the off season. So he's my wild card right now, where I think he can get into the state tournament. He's wrestled with some of those kids lower rated, 8, 9, 10, stuff like that. He's wrestled right with those guys. We got a stacked region as always.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I mean, if he's in a different region, he's probably qualifying right away, but he's got an outside shot of making it. And I'm really looking forward to that weight class come Saturday.
Josh Geppert here with Mount Vernon Plankinton Corsica Stickney Wrestling here on Wrestlemania here at the Depot tonight on the Wednesday Night Coaches Show. You talk about wrestling knowledge. You guys on your coaching staff has pretty good wrestling knowledge besides yourself. I mean, talk about some of your assistant coaches.
I got a lot of assistant coaches there that had a lot of experience. Kyle Gerlach, he's one of those diamonds in the rough, so not a whole lot of people know about him unless you're around this area. He's from Mount Vernon. He was an All-American at Dakota Wesleyan. I wrestled with him for a year in college. Wrestled with him for a year in high school. He was like an 8th grader when I was a senior. He's one of those old school farm kids. He's a hardworking guy, and he really knows his stuff. We both learned under the same coach in Matt Sedevy in college, and he brings a lot to the table. And he's still young enough where he can kind of roll around with those guys. And he's starting to catch the age, is starting to catch up to him a little bit. But he's awesome to have, and I would hate to go through the season without him. He's a complete asset and enjoy to be around. Are you getting on the mats, wrestling around? Because I see you got a shiner, so I don't know if that's from at home or at the wrestling mat. No, a little bit. Okay. Actually, I tore my ACL at the beginning of the season, so it was one of those things I kind of held off on surgery because I didn't want to go through surgery at the beginning of the wrestling season. But try to get on there a little bit, but I don't want Jesse hurting me too bad, so I kind of stay away from that and use that as an excuse. Head down to Parks on Saturday. What time does it all start down there Saturday? Wayne's I believe starts at 10 o'clock. So it'll be an early morning, but I think the kids are ready to go and I'm excited to get this thing started. You bet. Well, hey, thanks for coming out tonight, talking with here on the radio, and thanks for talking to our quarterback club tonight. No problem. Thank you. Josh Geppert, again, Mount Vernon Plankinton Corsica Stickney, the Titan wrestling coach here on the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner. We'll come back with Robert Kokesh of Wagner next after this time out on the Wednesday Night Coaches Show.
They are role models and educators. Their work requires a great deal of time and energy for very little pay. Who are these unsung heroes?
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
The simple truth about education-based athletics in South Dakota is this: without a committed team of coaches and administrators, it just wouldn't be possible. School sports, they bring out the best in all of us. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in South Dakota. This is sportsmanship. School sports, it's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Welcome back here, Freight House Room, the Depot, online only at KORNradio.com. It's Wrestlemania here. Come on out. It's nothing but wrestling here. Wrestling coaches from high school, college, all here tonight. They do it every year on the Wednesday before the regional for high school. And we got one of the coaches here that got to make some noise, not just in the region, but they're hoping in Class B state wrestling, one of the top 4 or 5 ranked teams here. It's Wagner and Robert Kokesh. Coach, thanks for coming out tonight.
Hey, no problem. You know, it's an exciting time to come out here. I came out here last year and get to hear a lot of coaches speak about their guys and get to hear, you know, information and pick up some tidbits from their coaching strategies as well. So it's always good to come back here.
Before we talk about the kids, I look at your coaching staff and not just wrestling knowledge, but you got a whole slug of coaches on your staff for a size of Wagner. Talk about your assistant coaches.
Yeah, you know, you got John Tyler. You know, he's been a long time assistant coach for Wagner. I think 20 years. I think he started in 2000. Got my ex and my brothers also an assistant coach with us, Richard. And then we got 3 volunteer assistant coaches on our staff as well. We got Chris McKinney, Alex, and David Kocher as well, who are also Wagner alumni. So,
want to talk about some of your heavier kids here to start things out. KJ St. Pierre, I hope I said that right. 220, probably the cream of the crop in the state, not just in your region.
Yeah, you know, he's a tough kid. You know, he's definitely improved a lot from this last season going into this season. And I think, you know, his mentality, his work ethic has really improved. And I think that he understood that he needed that change from last year. You know, he played 7th in state last year. You know, I think he thought he could have done better than what he did. And, you know, I think moving into this season, you know, I think he had a little edge on his shoulder. And and just comes he wrestles every match to the fullest to his potential, and just goes out there and makes things happen.
Dawson Lensing at 220, another one that's had an impressive year for Wagner.
Yeah, Dawson's a kid. He's a bigger kid, weighs about 260, and
Wow.
he fills the weight class pretty well. We're gonna miss Dawson. He's our lone senior this year. Gonna miss Dawson a lot going into this next season, but he's definitely improved from the beginning of the season to now. I think he's a top 5 kid right now, ranking wise. But I think he's a guy that I think that could finish at the top at this weight class, wrestling to his fullest potential. He just got to continue to improve and get better in this next week, going up to regions and hopefully up to the state tournament.
I don't know what I said, but he is 285, right?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yep.
Do they call it heavyweight anymore? I'm not a big wrestling guy, but I do know a little bit. But they call it 285, or is it heavyweight?
They call it both.
Okay.
Usually heavyweight 285. It don't really matter.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't, not call it red. Are you stronger at your lighter weight classes? I mean, 106, 130. I mean, you're heavier down there. I mean, with stronger kids down there.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, we're open at 170, 182, 195. So
okay.
our bigger guys, them, Dawson and KJ, they work out pretty much, every practice. Besides, if us coaches jump in. But we got our lighter weights. I would say is our stronger part of our lineup. 106, 113, 120, 126. Them guys are kind of our back-to-back guys when we go into duels. Expect a lot of points out of those guys. So we got Jagger Tyler at 106. He's a kid that has definitely improved. He's very young, 8th grader. And, Riley Roberts, he's a 7th grader. Heading into the region tournament. Hopefully we can get those 2 guys to state. And then, you got Lance Sokup, returning state champ for us from last year at 113, and then Braden Lotek at 126, who got 8th place at 120 last year and moved up a weight class this year. So, them guys, they're all hard workers. They all attack the sport of wrestling with the right mindset, and I think that's why they're hopefully finish where they're going to place at the end of the year.
You talk about the names, and just when you think of the names, you think of wrestling. And we're talking, Kokesh with you, but Sokup and Lotek, names like that. It's just a wrestling community, Wagner, is it not?
Yes, it is. I feel that Wagner's a wrestling town. I think we got 5 state titles as a program in Wagner. So I would say it's definitely a wrestling town. A lot of those names are coming back. Brad, Braden Lotek's dad, Brad Lotek, was
sure.
3-time state champ back in the 90s, and to get those guys back, moving back to our hometown, trying to build that program back up and get it back on the right track to, where we were once before and where I know we can be in the future.
Talked about this a little bit before, but you got, 6, 7, 8 coaches here tonight, just sharing stories with them. How fun is that to kind of pick their brains and just everybody gets together?
It's a good event. That's why it's nice to come out here and get to see other coaches, from around the state. We compete against a lot of these coaches throughout the year as well. And get to sit down with them and talk with them and, get more of their coaching strategies, kind of what, how they approach a sport and their practices and their competitions. And, and it's just kind of, I'm a young coach, my 2nd year with Wagner. So, it's just it's a big difference, from when I wrestled and, to being a coach. So it's nice to pick all those little tidbits up from these guys.
How are you better as a coach compared to last year to this year? What have you picked up?
I would say, I'm more developed. I know how to, practices wise, knowing what to expect when I go to practice and knowing what we have to work on and have more of a schedule based plan. Also, I think, last year, I think I got, little too more emotionally involved in a lot of matches because I feel like, I'm almost out there because I was just so freshly, removed from college. And, I think this year, I'm a little more relaxed and a little more developed, I guess, as a coach.
What was it about that you wanted to get into coaching?
I just love the sport. I knew I'm moving back here from Nebraska. I just kind of wanted to, stay involved with the sport. I love the sport of wrestling. I want to develop, especially me being from Wagner, I want to build this program back up and just, get that tradition back. We were a powerhouse program here back when I was a, sophomore through my senior season in high school. And I know back in the 90s, we had won a couple state titles as well. Just get that tradition back in Wagner.
You're not a teacher, right?
I am not a teacher, no.
Yeah. What do you do in Wagner?
I am actually a farmer rancher.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, that works out well when you're a wrestling coach, right?
It does,
yeah.
So. It does. So,
let's talk about overall. I know regions are coming up, but Canton, Winter, they're obviously the top 2 teams in the Class B ranks, right?
Yes. Canton's got a really, really tough program. They got a really, really good program. They got a lot of good kids. I think I counted up. I think they got 10 of their kids are ranked in the top 5. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
I mean, it's amazing their program they got going on there. And, you know, Winter's the same way. You know, it just seems like they keep building and their guys keep getting better every year. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to strive for. You know, we got to keep looking forward to the future. And we got a pretty young team for the most part. We got a big junior class. You know, one senior this year. You know, next year I think we're gonna have a pretty solid team. Just got to fill those weight classes for duels. You know, we kind of struggle in our duels and tournament wise, I think we got a pretty decent team.
I mean, there's some good teams out there, but Region 3B is absolutely stacked.
Yes, Region 3B, in my opinion, has always been one of the toughest regions. You know, ever since I've been in wrestling, since I was when I started when I was an 8th grader, you know, at the high school level when I started competing. So, you know, it seems like that region's always stacked. You know, you could have guys, 5-6 guys out of that weight class in that region go to state. You know, I know we got some kids in our room that, you know, might not, you know, get to the state tournament due to the fact that the region's so tough, even though they've beaten kids that are going to be at the state tournament.
Do you still get in the mat and scrap with the kids?
Oh yeah. Okay. I usually do. You know, most times I try to get out there and wrestle around with the guys, and you know, a big part of that is, you know, I can kind of coach them as I'm wrestling them, and that, you know, that's the biggest thing I think, in my opinion, that really helps out. And you know, we get into a position, I'm saying, hey, this is what you need to do to finish in this position, and you know, I think that really helps out, you know, coaching wise, because you know, when you're you know, coaching that many kids, you know, when you could actually sit down one-on-one, that's where I think they make their biggest strides.
Yeah, I know you're not that old, but the facilities down in Wagner are pretty second to none for high school.
Yes.
Not just wrestling, but basketball and track and football. It's quite a deal down there.
It is. You know, they do a really, really good job, and you know, the athletic director, you know, backs us really, really well. So, you know, we just got to keep that going, keep the programs in Wagner, keep building and keep getting better from here on out.
Yeah, I gotta want to say volleyball too, because otherwise the other coach Tyler will get after me if I didn't mention her there as well. So, hey, Coach, thanks for coming out tonight. Good luck to you down in Parkston in your region, and good luck at the state meet after that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Robert Kokesh, he is the second-year head coach for the Wagner Red Raiders here in the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner, live here for the Freight House Room of the Depot. We're back with Coach John Donovan next to Chamberlain after this timeout.
The Depot Pub and Grill. Great food and great people. Dine in or take out family dining. The Depot features Angus burgers, pure beef, and oh, so good. The Depot has a large menu to suit any taste. There's nothing better than an ice-cold beverage, mouth-watering food, and the Depot's atmosphere. It's going to be a good time at the Depot, the place to get derailed from the everyday.
The Depot.
7 blocks south of the Corn Palace in Mitchell.
Welcome back here, Freight House Room at the Depot. One more final coach to get through here tonight. We switch back to Class A, and that's Chamberlain coach with us, John Donovan. And Coach, thanks for coming out tonight. I know it's probably not your favorite thing you want to do on a Wednesday, but by golly, thanks for coming over tonight.
Thank you. I had parent-teacher conferences from 4 to 6, and crawled in the vehicle and raced on over here for this. So.
Yeah, well, I know you're kind of mentioned that you didn't know if you could make it here because of some other things, but we're here in the postseason. Saturday is an exciting time for wrestling coaches.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely excited for it. Hoping to compete hard and get as many kids through as we possibly can this coming Saturday.
So many people are talking about Nash, obviously, but you got some other kids on your squad here as well. Obviously, the 113 is probably close to your heart, right?
Yeah.
Max ranked second in that weight class. Let's talk about him and what his maybe outcome might be come Saturday.
Well, I think he should win our region unless he comes down with a bad case of the flu, knock on wood.
Right.
I don't see him not winning our region. Should come out of there pretty good and set himself up for state. He's with who he's wrestled and how he's wrestled, he should do pretty well at coming out of our region.
We're going to talk about some of the highlighted kids here that that have been doing very well for you. Colin Powell at 126, he's still up there. He's having a great year as well.
Yeah, he is having a great year. Lee Wolf Invitational was kind of a tough tournament for him. He lost to the Bismarck Century kid and then came back and for the 3rd and 4th place match, lost to the defending state champion from Jamestown in the weight class. Both close matches. The one was a 1-point match, the other one was a 2-point match. But losses are good, especially when they're not South Dakota kids, and it doesn't hurt you for the seeding. They were great kind of reminders of where we needed to do and some things that we needed to work on. And Collins, he's wrestling really well right now.
132, Gabe, is it Skustad?
Skustad, yes.
Yeah, he'll talk about his chances in the regions coming up.
Unless there's something I don't know, he should be the #1 seed.
Oh, okay.
And, be in the finals either against, let me think, the McGinnis kid from Mitchell,
yeah.
or the, I believe, Johnson kid from Pierre.
Oh, yeah.
We beat both of them. He's wrestling really well. It's Gabe's kind of a success story for our program. Gabe's only been wrestling. This is his 3rd year ever wrestling, and he's quite an impressive kid. He's just he works hard. He's got a great work ethic, and just getting better every day in the practice room.
160 Remington Rosso.
Yes.
Yeah, he's 160 for you.
Yes. Rem's. We're one match away last year. We had a really tough 160 with Stack last year. You think about the kids that came out of 160. Har won it. Trying to think out of there. Havlik was the runner-up, and Lusk, or was it Lusk, or I can't think of the kid's name.
Out of Pierre.
Yeah, to Pierre.
Yeah.
I believe that kid was 3rd. I mean, holy smokes, that's just out of our own region. He didn't make it out. We're hoping to punch a ticket. Remington's a great athlete. Just took about 4 or 5 years off of wrestling. Wrestled in AAU, didn't do junior high, came back out as a freshman. So we're trying to make up for lost time, and he's doing some good things right now, and how he's progressing with his wrestling.
And of course, 285. A lot of attention on the polar bear in your heavyweight category.
Yeah, Nash is wrestling well. The big thing is it's hard to. How do I say this without sounding awful? But he hasn't seen the competition that he's seen in the last couple of years. He's seen some great competition as a freshman and as a sophomore. He hasn't seen that this year. With that being said, he's worked on a lot of good things and really progressed his technique a little bit. And we're just keep looking for ways to challenge him in the practice room. And he's got a great wrestling partner and volunteer assistant with Nick Clausen, and just doing some good things, just keeping on, and hoping to win. Well, not hoping, but he's going to win another state
You could say it. Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to win another state championship.
Everybody's saying the same thing. So you're not the only one in there as well. And I kind of got lost in the whole thing because with all the hype of football, and he's great in track and wrestling, he's only a junior, for crying out loud. I thought he was a senior, but you still got another year for him left.
Yeah, he is a junior, and he's really looking forward. His big push is not just high school wrestling, but he wants to win the Triple Crown. He wants to win Folk Style Nationals, USA Folk Style Nationals, Freestyle, USA Freestyle, and Greco-Roman, and that's his goal, and we've been pushing for him to try to achieve that goal. We've got partners in place for him to keep training as soon as the state wrestling tournament's over.
Is this a once-in-a-lifetime deal? I mean, for you as a coach to have somebody like this in a town of Chamberlain, to have an athlete like this? And we're not just talking wrestling. He's a multi-sport athlete.
Well, unique opportunity when I was a young coach. I coached in Harding County, and I got to coach some great athletes up there. And BJ Padden, who was he was a 3-time All-American, 2 or 3-time All-American for University of Nebraska in college, and he was a superb athlete. He was crazy good. He was a great football player. He was a great track star. He placed in state and track. Kind of off the radar when you live in Harding County.
Right, yeah.
Not everybody's there. What's crazy about that is his brother Brandon was even better than. No offense, BJ, if you're listening to this, but Brandon was an even better football player. He was an amazing football player. He was a 2 or 3 times state place winner, undefeated state champion as a senior year, won high school nationals back when high school nationals was the real thing, 110 kids in weight class. Pinned the #1 kid in the nation in there. I think those kids helped prepare me for Nash. I was a young coach. I was 27, 28 years old, coaching a kid that was unbelievable. I mean, he was off the charts good. It was it kind of helped me prepare for the interviews and helped me prepare for talking about the college thing, the D1 thing, and all those athletes helped me. Your younger years think, okay, what do I need to do now? And Yeah, Nash is Nash incredible, absolutely. But I'm glad I had those other athletes before to help me with this situation.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know he's darn good, but how much is it intimidation factor when he steps on that mat against whoever he's wrestling? I mean,
a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
We saw it the other day. We had a duel against Kimball, and they wouldn't send a wrestler out. And it's a little disappointing. It didn't want to go out, and I was disappointed in the sense that I sent my 220-pounder out, who's struggling this year and has only got 2 wins on the season against their number 1 rated wrestler. And we got pinned in 20 seconds. We wouldn't have done that to their kid. But it's just kind of one of those things. Yeah, I kind of get used to it. A lot of kids not wanting to wrestle him. A lot of times I really love it, and he really loves it when kids come after him. He loves that. He wants kids to wrestle with him. He doesn't want to go out there and have these kids back off the mat. I don't know how many times this year he's walked off the mat and said, man, if they just wrestle with me, I just want to wrestle with someone. Everybody's running. He's got to chase kids down, and that's hard to wrestle someone technique-wise as somebody that's just running off the mat every time.
How much has he been just self-motivated with that lack of competition and just to keep going at it, knowing that maybe it's going to be a while until he finds that competition?
Nash is very unique in that deal. He still goes hard in the practice room. And I'm blessed with having one of my former athletes who was he weighs about the same as Nash now. He's been out of high school for 2 years now. Nick Clausen did a tour in Afghanistan and came back and put on a bunch of weight. He's a strong kid. He can push Nash now, and Nash loves that in the practice room. Add to that, I have an assistant coach, Luke Geezy from Minnesota that works in our school district as a teacher in our school district, and he can work with Nash too. So he's got some great partners that are pushing him in the practice room, even though he's not getting the competition on the mat. In competition, he's getting it in the practice room.
How would you best describe the atmosphere, whether it's at the state tournaments in past years or maybe what you expect this year? Just the entire crowd, some great crowds we've had the last couple of years.
Gosh, I'm hoping Rapid City's good. The last time we were there was kind of frustrating in that you couldn't only see it from one side, and the congestion on the floor was a little ridiculous. But with that being said, it is a state tournament. It's a combined state tournament. It's always going to be fantastic. I hope they've worked the glitches out of as far as centering the mats and doing some things with that. But we love Sioux Falls. Not to take anything away from Rapid, but if they said, "Oh, since Sioux Falls forever," I'd be good with that until Rapid gets their new arena built. But really, really like just the atmosphere of having both classes there. Yeah, it isn't a perfect situation at the arena in Rapid City, but it is what it is.
But also being on the Class A side, having Stevens and Central being really good this year, that's going to help with attendance too, I would imagine.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah, that's they are both good teams. The Central's kind of hasn't received the love of late, in the rankings, stuff like that. But I realize that they're a very good team, and I'm hoping it fills the arena there. It should be great. Class B always seems to bring a large following, and then let's hometown crowd. It should be fun.
Yeah, and Chamberlain team wise, you're hoping maybe top 4 or 5 on your side, maybe hopefully.
Just want to get on the podium.
Yeah, okay.
Just want to get on
top
the podium.
8. All right.
I've always said it like this: boys have to take care of their jobs, and it doesn't start. It starts at regions. We got to get kids through regions. Do we have some big guns there that can score some points? Absolutely. But you got to have some soldiers coming back through. I learned my lesson as a young coach in Hardin County, and you've got to have some kids coming back through, winning a match. If it's just one match, winning, coming either on the front side or back side, those extra points make the difference. And hoping to get through as many as we can through regions. I don't have a prediction as far as who and what. I don't like to do that, but we need as many guys to get through there as possible to kind of set us up team-wise for state.
This is the first time I've ever met you, by the way, and you remind me, and don't tell me you've never heard this before, but you remind me of the late Robin Williams.
Oh, really?
Nobody's ever said that to you before?
A few people have.
See,
yeah.
I knew it. So I don't know. Are you a funny type of guy, or?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, all right. So there you go. I hit it right in the head there for you. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I just was we have a couple of young kids that are coming up through my 106 pounder, 120 pounder, 138 pounder. Trey Nealon, Dominic Santiago, and Gabe Skustad. Cody Skustad, Gabe's older brother. They're starting to come on, so I'm hoping those guys can punch their tickets and get a couple wins at the state wrestling tournament. That's the big thing for me.
With you being obviously the head coach, you got to keep your thumb on the younger grades as well to develop that and retain them a little bit too.
Yeah, I'm a 6th grade science teacher, 6th and 7th grade science teacher, and so I'm constantly recruiting kids coming in. So that's the big thing. I kind of stepped away from the AAU side just because it's overwhelming with I'm never around type of a deal, and in a small school they want you involved in everything, and I just finally had to say somebody else has to take this. But yeah, I try to keep my finger in everything. So
well, Coach, we thank you for coming out, talking with us. Thanks for talking to our quarterback club, and good luck on Saturday.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You bet. John Donovan here, Chamberlain head wrestling coach on the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner show, live here from the Freight House room of the Depot. I want to thank all of our coaches for being on the show tonight. Travis Carpenter, Casey Mao, Josh Geppert, Robert Kokesh, and John Donovan as well. For Travis Carpenter, for Travis Crins, I'm Sports Director Steve Morgan saying good night from the Freight House room of the Depot.